Welcome back. It is a big day at the state capitol. This year's legislative session begins in just a few hours with the opening address from Governor Kevin Stitt.
The governor will lay out his focus for 2022. Then lawmakers will get to work on sifting through 3,000 bills that have been filed. Joining us live is News 9 political analyst Scott Mitchell. Scott, good morning.
Good morning to you both.
Hey, thanks for talking to us. We know number one priority is to pass a budget. What are your thoughts on some differences, some fluctuation, and kind of how it trickles down to Oklahoma families?
Well, there's three areas that people will be looking at. One is the Democrats are going to want to spend more money on current services, maybe do something with a sales tax break on groceries. That's going to be done. That's going to happen, by the way. There'll be something happening there. Republicans are going to want to save some money. And then there's always for families, just watch this. It's an election year. Everything must be viewed through that prism of the election. And, you know, there's 2,300 new bills out there. About 2,200 of those are not going to see the light of day. So a lot of politics in an election year at a legislative session.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about education, teachers. What are the bills that possibly could help education and our teachers in the state coming up? How is that going to play out?
Well, that will be something, you know, Robin, it's the end of May where all the magic happens. And so a lot of these bills, a lot of these topics will be introduced as bills, but those operative aspects of those bills get yanked out of the bill and put in something down the road. And remember, everything really has to be something that the leadership wants. So a lot of these bills are introduced. We'll give teachers X amount of raise. It's not going to happen until they get down to working on the budget, and that fluctuates.
Speaking of education, the state superintendent, Joy Hofmeister, is running against the governor. How do you think that's going to play a part in all of this?
Ratings. It gets your popcorn. I mean, there will be proxies. There will be Democrats who will be running bills that are really Hofmeister bills. There will be Republicans doing things that are going to really be Governor Stitt bills. The superintendent and the governor are going to be imprinted on everything that's done out there because of this election. And then remember, in April, you sign up. So there are a lot of Republicans and Democrats right now worried about primary opponents. So the posturing really is big in the first couple of months.
Let me ask you about recreational marijuana. The Attorney General talked about medical marijuana today and some of the making sure that that is done legally, but there is a push for recreational marijuana in Oklahoma. Are you seeing that this could get to a vote of the people? How will that play out at the Capitol?
Hey, I'm never going to say never in terms of politics in Oklahoma, but I know there's been a gazillion dollars spent on ramping up for medical marijuana, and it's a mess, capital M. And I know that the legislature has got to do something about that. The thought of having a recreational, number one, is problematic in itself. Number two, they've got to do something about the law we have right now. And remember, that thing was not even supposed to happen, the medical marijuana bill. So there are so many different players. It's like three-dimensional chess.
You got about 30 seconds left. Last question. We're talking COVID. We know it's got to have some sort of impact on this legislative session. What are you seeing in that as far as COVID and how it will impact the bills this session?
You know, it's going to be lots of bills about mandates. There's going to be lots of bills that are going to be, again, back to the gubernatorial election. It's going to be a lot about Hofmeister v. Stitt on these issues. So when you watch these, remember what's behind it. It is a lot to do with the election coming up.
All right, Scott Mitchell, we always appreciate your analysts from the Capitol. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Good to be here.
Thanks, Scott. News 9's Storm Jones and Augusta McDonald will be at the state capitol every day until this legislative session is over. They will be following the process closely and updating us on bills as they work their way through.